Yeah.
And so we get to dine anointed with oil in the presence of our enemies because of what Jesus has done for us. So this beautiful picture, when we believe in that, that means there's not a single family member, no matter how
broken,
unpleasant they might be or challenging. We need to be intentional about building connection with them.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Journey We Share podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing connection, family connections, how to build connection, intimacy, relationship dynamics within that. And I'm actually super excited because I just want to remind everyone and let everyone know that in a way, this goes far beyond a blended family, which you guys know we've been talking a lot about. It also has to do with like in-laws, with your spouse, right? Just like how do we build continual connection and closeness?
That's true. And being intentional about it, right? And having those connections be meaningful, not negative connections.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yes. Now, we want to remind you that we would love for you to subscribe to our channel, hit that bell so that you don't miss any of our podcasts. We not only have the Journey We Share podcast, but also Kayleigh's book reviews, which are fantastic. Her Christian reviews of regular secular books. So you want to know what to read and what not to read. So you want to check that out. And also, we want you to connect with us as well, to share with us what you're thinking, how you process some of these conversations that we're having. So you can comment on YouTube, you can comment on the podcast feed, or you can send us an email at hello@trokia.org. Thank you. Now, as we get into today, part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because of Brene Brown's book. Okay, I'm going to start with our resource right from the start because I love this book. And I love Brene Brown. As you know, she has this very famous, I think the most famous TED Talk was her TED Talk on vulnerability. And then she kind of went through this book and talked about all the different emotions, the range of emotions we can have, and how they affect our human connections. And so I thought it would be good to talk about connection because in a family, when you first start out and you have your kids, you're kind of together by just the nature of it. It just, right? You have your kids, we're together. And I'm watching, Melissa, our youngest, with her baby, and it's just the beginning of it. Mm-hmm. They're connected, right? No question about it. But as kids get older, as they become teenagers and they separate, or when they go to college and now they get married and there's an in-law and, there's more people engaged, meaningful connection in a family, it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
You can't leave it to just, we're a family, so we're connected.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an important topic. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yeah. I'm actually super excited because I do think it's such an important topic. And one, I will say, I feel like we've done pretty well. Like, I think we've been very intentional across our very blended family to create intentional relationships and dynamics. And that hasn't always just fallen on your shoulders. Like,
true.
One of my stepsisters is very intentional on like checking in, on creating events, on texting and keeping the grandbabies, like your grandbabies, connected and all of the cousins close. And that's a huge, huge win, because it's not just, okay, your family over here, our family over here, and that's it. Like, everyone is making an effort to connect really well.
That's true. And, in a blended family like ours, it's very easy to become that group and this group and not have that unity. And, we began when we first got together. I don't know if you remember this, but we would have Sunday night dinners to invite the kids who are already out of the house to come and have dinner with us. Obviously, we were having dinner with you and Melissa all the time, but the rest of the kids were out. And so we would make sure they could come over and have dinner with us. And we were trying to build new memories as a family because we did not start as a family of 5.
Yeah.
For some people, these are the kids. They've had only their kids, but now they have spouses. The kids get married. And once again, they have to be intentional about, okay, how do we bring those kids together? Because life happens and you get busy and you disconnect, right? Or if there's some sort of conflict, you disconnect.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt distant or disconnected on your journey of faith? Disconnected from God, from your church, from people? And you wondered, how can I grow deeper in my relationship with God? I get it. I've been there myself. In fact, this is the reason I wrote my book, Uncharted, Navigating Your Unique Journey of Faith. In it, I tell my story, and I also share stories of people in the Bible who struggled on their journey of faith. You're not alone. So I hope you will check this book out. Also, I prepared an 8-week study guide that allows you to not only do it on your own, study the book and the material, but you can also gather a group of people together, maybe your small group, and have a good discussion about the journey of faith. I think you'll find it a great blessing. And for those of you who want to go even deeper, we have an online course at trochia.org where you can see a set of videos. You can download a PDF version of the study guide and go even deeper on your journey of faith. I believe these resources will encourage you on your journey of faith and help you have a thriving faith that is fruitful and a blessing to yourself and to others.
That connection changes.
That's true.
Right. So how it is when you're all in the same home. And so you have to connect to an extent, right? Like there has to be some sort of connection versus how it is when you're adults, your kids are adults and now they're out of the house. And what does it look like to create intentional space to continue to be in relationship? So like I was saying, I do feel like you guys did that really well. You did Sunday night dinners, which I think made a huge difference. I also think that we used to do birthdays.
That's right.
Like, so every month or every other month, we'd get together and do everyone's birthday. And I feel like that made a huge difference. In fact, when you took that away, we had some feels about that.
There are still feels about that.
Yeah, there are still, it's been years, you guys, and there are still feels about it. Because it just felt like, oh, here's intentional time that we're going to spend together, that we know we're going to do things together. And so you guys always really just kind of focused on, it doesn't matter who your other parents are. When we are here, we are a family, and that's what matters.
Yes.
And again, never with pressure. It was never like...
It's an invitation.
Yeah, it was never that the other people didn't matter. It was just that you guys wanted to make sure that we were also working on building our relationship.
Yes, yes.
But one of the coolest things that you guys implemented that then has been implemented on all my family sides now is family trips, where we every year or every other year would pick a place to go and we'd get to go and do something. And it was so much fun just to have that intentional time where we were all in the same similar house, same house. There's a few times we've stayed in like rooms, but for the most part,
which pretty much we're told never again.
Yes.
I mean, the family now is we want to be in the same house.
Yes.
We want to be all, which
let the
is
chaos
hard.
reign.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very hard. It's a lot of people, a lot of kids, but
you guys,
it's hard
we're
to find.
A family. So we are a family of 22. But does that include the new?
No, so 23.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's huge. It's a very busy family.
Yeah.
It's very full. We're always doing 1,000 things. And so it always feels busy and full, but it's also really cool and it's really fun, And so my other side, my dad also implemented family trips and we just do camping, right? So it's like also please realize that I know we get to do these really cool trips where we go in a house where all of us can stay together. And that may not be doable for everyone, but a trip, a day, an event, an experience, those are doable for everyone. And it does just create the intentionality of relationship.
True. I mean, I don't think for us, we were trying to help you guys build relationship with each other since you didn't grow up together. But as I think about it, honestly, it doesn't matter if you are a biological family, it's always been together, because when people become adults, they just separate. They have their own interests. They start to separate. And so you want to bring them together. I see you and your siblings, your direct siblings, right? And I see Jim's daughters growing closer even through those trips.
Yeah.
So it's not just about bringing the blended family together, it's bringing our adult children together.
Yeah.
And then, this is the best part, is seeing the grandkids, the cousins, build relationship with each other. We all love it. We all watch those kids build those relationships.
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful. And again, it doesn't have to be an elaborate trip or something fancy. It doesn't have to be a whole week. It could be just a day, like you say.
Yeah. And we also have dealt with it. A lot of us have stayed close by, but we have dealt with family members that have moved. So let's talk to the family who all of the kids moved away. They're in college. They're off in places.
So hard.
I have talked to so many parents that's what happens, right? And then now, how do you rebuild that? How do you make sure you don't lose that? And there's all sorts of different ways to do it. But I do think just that intentional, even if it's like one day, like, hey, we're going to all come together and spend time together. I'd say outside of the holidays, only because holidays add stress and like other aspects that are more complicated. Like really try to just find a way to bring everyone together and spend time together, because I do think that just really helps build the connection.
And today we have Zoom.
Yeah.
And I know Zoom is not perfect.
Yeah.
But I tell you, we've had some
use
family
it.
gatherings that are Zoom related, or we've had family gatherings where someone isn't with us.
Yeah.
But they zoom in.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally one time I remember Melissa watched us have dinner and
because she got sick.
She got sick, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, so we put Zoom and she kind of it was hard for her to interact with us because it's so loud.
Yeah.
But she was doing her thing, we were doing our thing, and we were somehow connected through Zooms, which another way to connect. And I think one of the ways to connect well with others is to be very self-aware of our emotions and what we're going through.
Yeah.
And so this is why I think the Atlas of the Heart is so good, because Brene Brown talks about her family history, how there were so many emotions flying in her family. But people didn't understand how those emotions were, what they were doing to their connections. Sometimes the connections were coming closer, sometimes they weren't. So everything from resentment, like the negative side, we have resentment and jealousy. These things affect. Like we've had our own family situations that come up related to that.
Yeah.
And you have to know what's happening and know how to respond to that. But then there's the positive side, people who are intentionally seeking for peace, intentionally seeking for connection. And in our family, you're one of those people.
I'm the peacekeeper.
You're the peacekeeper. You're always trying to bring people together and sort of like celebrating the person who is always putting themselves in that place.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may not feel celebrated, but I think everybody knows Kayleigh's our peacemaker.
Yeah.
She's the one who tries to like, okay, settle down, everyone.
Everybody settle.
Settle down. Right?
Whoever's upset, we're going to fix it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And it's just making sure that we're all aware of like what we bring to the table or what emotions are bringing out, which again, this is one of the things that Brene does so well.
Yeah.
For each one of the emotions, I'll just share, for example, she shared, I read it actually this morning as I was preparing for today. She shared about her own sort of battle with resentment. And the way she describes resentment is, for example, if someone else is resting and she's tired, she's resentful that the other person is resting, but really what she's upset about is that she's not getting to rest.
Yeah.
And so recognizing like I'm having a feeling of resentment, but it isn't because someone else has done something wrong, but because I need something. And so she talks about resentment and kind of studying like, why am I having that emotion and what really is at play?
Yeah.
And so if she's resentful, and by the way, I read that, I thought, oh, do I understand that feeling? Because sometimes I work out of the home.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm working away in my office, I'm working on a sermon or whatever, and Jen's in another room on the lazy boy recliner, playing with his phone, scrolling, relaxing. And I'm all resentful about him. And he's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's not resting.
You just really are jealous. Yeah.
I'm jealous and resentful. But that's an example of how our connection can break down.
100%.
And that's just one emotion.
And you're in the same home.
Correct.
Your spouses. So imagine now, take that and multiply it because now you're separated. Now there's other spouses maybe involved, right? Yes. Like all of us kids are married now. So like all of us could have not just even our own frustration with our sibling, but then maybe a frustration then gets like amplified because a spouse gets involved or a spouse also feels protection over you, right? Like those things have all happened. And there's been, I'll say personally, like there was been a fair bit when I was going through my separation and divorce where trying to work that out right before that happened, my ex was like dealing with some stuff with some of the other siblings and some of the other sibling like spouses, because all of the men in the family were kind of like, what is happening? And so I think that there's a lot of that aspect of like how to balance that, how to stay in relationship while also acknowledging someone who's there, you can't get rid of them, but also feeling like that pressure to try to figure out like what that balance is. So it can be really complicated.
Right. And the temptation, or shall I say, the easy way out is to disconnect. Yeah. To go, I just don't want to deal with you. I'm just not going to show up at the family event. I'm not going to go and sit with you because, there's this emotion. I don't know what to do with this emotion. It is easier to disconnect when you're not in the same house. Yeah. So it does require a real desire. And I have to say, I feel so blessed by the fact that all of you work intentionally at connecting with one another. Jim and I always tell people how blessed we feel because you guys call each other independently of us, get together.
Yeah.
Like, you've been to Christina's or whatever, the kids get together. Outside of us, it's not about, we're not the glue anymore. Maybe we were for a while, but we're not the glue anymore.
I will say too, and this was just maybe luck, maybe like just God's blessing over your marriage, but both you and Jim really had a really strong importance. I know for me, wholly growing up was like, you can argue with your siblings, but you will work it out with your siblings. Like, that is your best friend. That is the person. I stayed in the same room with Melissa until I was 15, right? Until I got to, or no, I was a little younger. I think it was when Chad moved out after high school. So I would have been like 12. And then I got my own room. It was the first time. And I just like, but it did not matter. It didn't matter how frustrated we are. I remember once hurting Chad's feelings. It will forever be just like stuck in my brain because he's a half sibling and I called him a step sibling and I broke his heart. And you came to me and you said, he is not your step sibling. He is your half sibling and you will apologize. You will fix this. Oh, okay, sure. It was, yes, we were allowed to have dissension and disagreement, but like it couldn't last, right? Like if something happened, we had to come back and figure it out. And I really saw that when you guys got married too, that continued even across family lines.
Yeah.
So like if there was an issue between Jim's kids and us, you would 100% be like, that's fine. You can have a moment. Take a break, take a breather, but we're coming back together. Yeah. And the very few times at the beginning when we were working those pieces out and maybe you guys said, okay, we're going to like all take a collective step back. Some other sibling would be like, no, I'm not taking the collective step back. So it's like, if you don't want to, that's fine. But like, I am still inviting everyone into this space. So it really just created a constant like willingness for all of us to show back up for each other. And I do think it made a big difference.
In the Beatitudes, one of the Beatitudes is blessed are the peacemakers. Mm-hmm. And there is indeed a flourishing that comes when people choose, when they are intentional about peacemaking, about reconciliation, about including others that maybe you're not as comfortable with.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time we had, I think it was a Christmas party at our house where we invited all of our exes and our kids invited their exes. Yeah. I mean, Jim was so funny. He's like, there's so many exes and steps. We can build a third floor in our house, and it's just this idea that no one's out, that family's family, and that we're going to, it's okay to be a little uncomfortable so that we can show that we matter to one another. We're forever connected, whether you're talking to someone or not. I mean, I have friends who have not talked to one of their children for years and years and years, but they're still tethered. And it's more painful to be tethered like that than to be a little uncomfortable at a family event. I mean, provided people are not abusive. Of course, if someone's abusive, you don't want, you can't be around them. Yeah. And we don't have that in our family, thank God. Yeah. We have tensions. Yeah. And that is a reality in every family. Yeah. Hard conversations. Sometimes something gets said or on our little texting thread.
People don't agree. Yeah.
Statement gets made. It's like, well, that just went sideways, and everyone's sort of like, okay, we still love each other. So just being intentional. And our story for today, I'm grounding it on 2 Samuel. Maybe you can read it for us, Kayleigh. Yeah. 2 Samuel chapter 9. It's a little long. It's 12 verses, but I feel like this is to me, it's an inspiration of just the heart of God. In Scripture, God's always for the poor, the marginalized, the widow, the outsider. That's his heart. And so when we seek intentional connection with others, when we look for the person in the family who's sort of going on the edge and we want to bring them back in, I feel like God is our place to go as who models this for us. Yeah. And this is the story of David embracing Saul's son. So just to remind everyone, Saul was the first king of Israel, chosen by God to be the king of Israel, and blessed by God. He was apparently a very handsome, tall guy, very successful in military campaigns. But then he got arrogant, and he did something that disconnected him from God, and God chose David to be the next king. David was just a kid, a shepherd. And David became successful in the battlefield, so successful that Saul became jealous of him. And so Saul, from that point forward, was so jealous, was literally chasing after David to kill David. Now, eventually, Saul dies, and David becomes the king. And it was typical of that time that once you became a king, you would, I mean, it sounds terrible, but you would kill all the children, all the descendants of the prior king, so they would not uprise against you. And so, sure enough, when Saul dies, his son Jonathan dies with him. And now we have this one son, Mephibosheth, who's still alive, and he gets taken out of the house. And in that process, they fall. He injures himself. He becomes basically a quadriplegic. And so David brings him to his palace. And that's the story we're going to read. And you can just see the intentionality to connect even when it's difficult.
Yeah. Okay, so we're starting at verse 1. It's 2 Samuel 9, starting in verse 1. It says, David asked, is there anyone remaining from the family of Saul I can show kindness to for Jonathan's sake? Which David and Jonathan were friends.
Yes.
So that's also another aspect.
Jonathan is Saul's son.
Yes, exactly. There was a servant of Saul's family named Ziba. They summoned him to David, and the king said to him, are you Ziba? I am your servant, he replied. So the king asked, is there anyone left of Saul's family that I can show the kindness of God to? Ziba said to the king, there is still Jonathan's son, who is injured in both feet. The king asked him, where is he? Ziba answered the king, you'll find him in Lodabar at the house of Machir? We're going to
say it with confidence, and it's good.
Okay. Try that again. You'll find him in Lodabar at the house of Machir, son of Ammiel. So King David had him brought from the house of Machir, son of Ammiel, in Lodabar. Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came to David, fell face down, and paid homage. David said, Mephibosheth, I am your servant, he replied. Don't be afraid, David said to him. Since I intend to show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan, I will restore you to all your grandfather Saul's fields, and you will always eat my meals at my table. Mephibosheth paid homage and said, what is your servant that you take an interest in a dead dog like me? Then the king summoned Saul's attendant Ziba and said to him, I have given to you your master's grandson, all that belonged to Saul and his family. You, your sons, and your servants are to work the ground for him, and you are to bring in the crops so your master's grandson will have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's grandson, is always to eat at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Ziba said to the king, your servant will do all the Lord the king commands. So Mephibosheth ate at David's table just like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah. All the living in Ziba's house were Mephibosheth's servants. However, Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem because he had always ate at the king's table. His feet had been injured.
Okay, thank you I realized it's not Saul's son, Saul's grandson. The grandson.
Yeah. Which honestly still goes even more, because it could have been any generation, right? Like he used to kill all men.
That's right.
Like the kings would kill all men.
Any descendant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And when he starts saying, is there anyone remaining? The immediate thought would be like, okay, because he's going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But instead he brings him close, that intentionality of bringing him close. And the generosity. I mean, it isn't just about, I'm going to spare your life, I'm not going to kill you, but the generosity he gives them.
Eating at the table.
Of giving him someone to care for it, giving him all sorts of things and then caring for it. Because, of course, Mephibosheth couldn't work the land.
Yeah.
But then also eating at the king's table, which is a huge honor, which is a beautiful picture, really, what Jesus does for us.
Yeah.
Right? We're outside of God's will. We're disobedient to God. Jesus comes. He rescues us. He's generous towards us.
Yeah.
And in Psalm 23, it says, we will sit at the table, right?
Yeah.
And so we get to dine anointed with oil in the presence of our enemies because of what Jesus has done for us. So this beautiful picture, when we believe in that, that means there's not a single family member, no matter how
broken,
unpleasant they might be or challenging. We need to be intentional about building connection with them.
Yeah.
Granted that our connection with certain people will be deeper than others,
and may look different.
It may not be perfect or even what you were hoping it would be, but you can still build some level of connection, and it's worth trying. I think.
And I think it's such a beautiful story. I love that you kind of just pinpointed it to Jesus, because I read that and I thought, oh, that's so cool. Like, that's so similar to like how we are given a seat at the table. Every single day we're given that opportunity to sit at the table, you know? But I also just want to really quickly remind that we are not saying that this is for every single situation, no matter if and or but. There are abusive family dynamics, unfortunately. In our current family dynamic, we don't deal with any of those, but we have. And so, you know, having that awareness of, you guys still showed love in those situations when we were dealing with it. You still showed compassion and kindness when I was going through that. You also had a line.
Boundaries.
And there was
Healthy
a line
boundaries
in the sand when you said, hey, this is not going to be okay anymore. In fact, for those of you guys who don't know this part of my story, I came to the conclusion of like, okay, I am going to move forward with this process of the divorce. I feel protected by God even in it. And Jim had come to me and said, I love you. I have now seen the whole situation. And I'm going to tell you right now that if you tried to go back, I would stop you. So there was also protection. There was a point at which there was a necessary protection, right? But up until that point, Jim had said, I will support you going back. I want you to keep working on your marriage, right? So it's like, there had to be this full awareness and then a proper boundary set. So please know that if you are in that situation where there's a proper boundary set, we're just not the ones to give you the answers on that. And you need to walk that out with God, with the therapist, with your family pastors, you know, your community. And stepping outside of that, I think there is always a place to work on building that relationship and work on communicating and being clear and discussing what's important and discussing your boundaries and being willing to find the good relationship and connection that you can.
You know, that reminds me, we should put on the show notes John Townsend's book, John Townsend and Henry Cloud, books on boundaries, because building meaningful connections really can't happen unless you have healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
You have to have healthy boundaries, even with people with whom you get along great.
Yeah.
It's just natural to think, oh, building connection means I just have to let people, have to do everything wherever they want. No, it's even as a grandma, right? I want to be with my grandchildren as often as possible, but I also have my own life and the things that I do. And sometimes I have to say no.
Yeah.
That's not a lack of love or even a lack of desire to connect with them. It's just, I have my own things to do. Yeah. So we'll put the boundaries book on the show notes, because part of connecting meaningfully is setting healthy boundaries with one another.
Yeah.
And so that would be one book, and then the Atlas of the Heart book as another. And just a constant reminder that human relationships are messy.
Yeah.
Family relationships are messy, but they are so worth it. And in this day with so much distraction and social media and all these fake ways to connect, quote unquote, connect. More than ever, it's important that we are intentional on being together as a family, putting the cell phones down, right? And just being. One of the things I love, we just did this recently. We went to the circus together and we hung out in the backyard and watched the kids run around and play and just let the conversation be super random.
Yeah, it went everywhere.
It went all over the place and just hanging out, just getting together and hanging out with no agenda, no plan, just being in each other's presence.
We did that with Mother's Day too. Like we did an early dinner, but then we just hung out in your backyard. And I do think that can be just as emotionally fulfilling and as intimately connecting as an activity or a trip or whatever. But it's just like intentional time where you're looking each other in the eyes and having conversation and being open. And again, I will say, I know I said it at the beginning, but I'll say it again now, is really do encourage your kids to build relationships with each other no matter what.
That's true.
I have to say, I have so many friends who've lost relationships with their siblings, and it comes down to the parents feeling like, what am I supposed to do? Right. And so then the parents don't encourage maybe the complicated sibling that's causing a lot of the uproar to keep seeking and growing and building, or it was just never an important dynamic, is to have them work together. And so that is the number one thing that I feel like you guys always taught us, and that I teach my girls, is there will be friends who come and go. There will be spouses who come into your life. There will be people, but at the end of the day, these are your siblings. These are your tried and true. They're your best friends from day one. So lean in. And that is who you protect. That is who you look out for. That is who you talk to. That is who you process with. That's how you build that connection, which is going to help you for the rest of your life.
So true.
And I do see that my kids are so close that they do not want to be in separate bedrooms. Like they always want to be together. And they fight. It's not that they don't fight. Fighting's okay. It's just about how you work through that and communicate and process through the other side.
That's true. And, I know the other side. I'm one of 7 children.
Yeah.
And we have I have one sister in Puerto Rico, one sister in Florida, one brother in Washington State. I have a sister here and a brother here. And then one brother, I don't know where he lives. I guess he moved recently, but we've been out of touch with him for quite a few years. We're not close.
I was going to say, you don't really talk to much of them.
No, I talk to my
sister who's here.
Right. Yeah. Very close to her. And it's funny, when we get together, it's like we're close. Like it was yesterday. There's no difference. But we're not operating the way that our smoothie family operates, which is odd and confusing. And what's really sad is my mom wanted us to be united. She specifically, when she became a single mother of 7 kids, her brothers were encouraging her to separate us. And some of the uncles were like, I'll take these 2 and this, that separate us amongst the different.
Make the lives easier.
Yeah, because she had 9 brothers and 2 sisters. So they were going to spread us out. Yeah. And my mom was like, absolutely not. I want my kids to be close to one another. And it didn't quite happen.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like we don't like each other.
Yeah,
there's no issues. Nobody is mean. Yeah. We have no abuse issue whatsoever. Yeah. We have one brother who's more like distant than everyone else. Yeah. And we get along when we're together, but it's hard to maintain friendships with them. Yeah. And so that saddens me. I'm glad for the relationships that I have. Yeah. But I wish they were more. Yeah. And I love that in our smoothie family, you guys, obviously, I give all of you a lot of credit for the work that you do, the intentional work that you do, because it wouldn't matter if Jim and I wanted it. This is what I learned with my mom. Yeah. My mom wanted it, but the siblings didn't want it. Yeah. And so the fact that you guys each wanted this as well is what makes our family work. Yeah. And so, I mean, if a parent's listening to this going, but I want that, and I'm not sure my kids want that, and how do I make them want it? You can't. Yeah. You can pray. You can pray and pray. I know I say this a lot in this podcast, by the way.
That's it. That's all there is.
Relationship dynamics. Yeah. That's really what we have. We have the faithfulness of God to be present with us in the highs and the lows. And so we can pray. And we can pray and ask God to guide our children towards that intentionality. And then we have to let it be. And we have to let it be as whatever it is.
I wonder if part of it, just like as you said that, it made me think, like, I wonder if part of it was how you guys have always, it's one party. If we were fighting, it did not matter. I'm having one party and either you're showing up or you're not, right? So it's like, yes, ultimately it's up to the adults to make a decision that's best for them, adult children. But you didn't pander to the arguments.
That's true.
You didn't okay, so you don't want to talk to this person, so I'll go celebrate with you and then I'll go celebrate with them. It's like, nope, no. We're doing one party. Either you come or you don't, and I love you either way. And there was a few times people didn't come because they were upset, right? And there was arguments. But at the end of the day, it made a huge difference because we always knew, like, hey, we are all doing this together. And you know what ended up always happening? It's always happened this way. Is like every other person shows up, except for the person that's really frustrated and upset. And eventually that person who's frustrated, upset doesn't want to be left out anymore. So then they show up, you know? So I think that yes, through hard conversations, yes, through building back that connection, but it also was, I don't want to miss my whole family for sake of this argument or disagreement or whatever. So I think that could also be a big aspect.
That's a good point. I have a friend who has a family member that's become quite difficult, and everyone put up with that person for a long, long time until that person was very disrespectful to the parents, really bad, really, really bad, to the point where that person was not allowed to come to the family trips anymore. This is not our family. It's a different family. Yeah. And so to this day, the things that they do together, that person doesn't get to participate because of how they behave. Yeah. And I look at my friend, and it's really painful. It's very hard.
It's not easy.
So I recognize that we, at this season in our family, we're doing well, but it's not something we take for granted. It's something we have to keep working at. And when it isn't as we wished, we just, again, take it to Jesus, give it to Jesus, know that this is a temporary time that we live in, that at the end of the day, every family has dysfunction or struggle. It might look different than ours. And we can be grateful for what we have. And the people who show up, we don't want to use that time complaining. And that's one thing we don't do.
Yeah.
We don't sit there and talk about each other or complain. We try to just be together and be grateful for what we have when we have it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm so glad that we got to talk about this today. Again, we will leave everything down in the show notes for you so you can get all of those different pieces, the books, all that information, because we want you to be able to continue on this conversation far beyond what we're talking about here today. But also, please just remember, we do not want to end the conversation here. So first, like, subscribe, hit the bell if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe if you're watching us or listening to us on any of the other platforms. But also leave a comment down below if you're on YouTube or on Spotify, but if you're anywhere else, send us an email at hello@trochia.org. Let's continue on in this conversation, and God bless you.